Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. Not Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews. I am Adam. As we continue on our trek to prepare ourselves for Captain America: Brave New World. What happened was I figured, we're doing Eternals in this, walk down memory lane, because it appears that the giant, body of a celestial that's been jutting out of the ocean since Eternals is going to factor into this movie tremendously. I think it's basically confirmed in the movie at this point. It is, it's going to be the source of adamantium in the MCU. So it'd be, if we're doing that, we kind of got to acknowledge the movie where we're going to be getting a lot of other characters from this movie. Because this movie is the basis of a few other major characters. Betty Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, and, the leader all come from this movie. And this is now, I think, officially the longest time between, the beginning and the payoff of something in the MCU. Because this is where we are finally get the payoff of the end of this movie, where, where we see, or right before the climax of the movie, we see start getting injected with the Hulk stuff, or the serum that creates the abomination, and now he's, he becomes the leader. I don't think this movie is that good, though, and I think that I'm not alone in that. Even looking back on it now, the movie has its moments, and there's a stark difference in quality in the times they're using CGI and the times they're using practical effects. Now, I'm not saying that the Hulk in this movie is ever a practical effect, really. It's mostly, if not all, CGI. But, there are two big sequences that I want to talk about. Because, by the time you get to the end of the movie, it's just a clusterfuck of CGI as, the Hulk is fighting Abomination in this, in Harlem. And it's not, that's not the moment I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fight that happens, when we get the first round with Blonsky and his team in Brazil, and they're trying to hunt down, the Hulk in this factory. And for most of that scene, we do not see the Hulk. It's all just playing with the fact that you're in this environment with a monster that you can't see. And there are, indications of it, and then there's, a lot of practical effects that go into that. And it has a real, haunted house horror vibe to it, and that works really well. The other sequence that works really well is the one at Culver University, where you get this idea of, you know, this fight between, what's his name? This fight that's why it's so fucking hot in here. I have the wrong fan on. The fight that happens between, you know, Ross, his army, and then eventually Blonsky and the Hulk is another great scene. Like, the entire opening of that, where it's like they have Banner cornered in that overpass, and then they put the gas in, and he just kind of, like, lets it happen because he feels the Hulk taking over. He just lets it happen. Like, all of that is such a great, like, it's great. And then it's like the reveal in the smoke and him bursting out as this is the first time we really see the Hulk in action. It's a really great moment. And, like, that whole thing is kind of interesting. The issue with the movie is the chemistry that's meant to be the driving force behind it, you know, between Betty and Banner is just non-existent. Like, there is zero chemistry between, who is it, Liv Tyler and Ed Norton. Like, Ed Norton has better chemistry with Ty Burrell in their infrequent interactions. He has better chemistry with with Thunderbolt Ross. And part of it comes from the fact that, like, I think she's just an underwritten character. Like, that's kind of my big issue, is that it's like, this is 2008, so the script would have been written like 06, 07 if they were shooting it, you know, for 08. Like, she's a severely underwritten character, and it to the point where it kind of just feels like we're going around in circles at times. Like, she's like, oh, well, what? Like one line that stuck out to me, to the point that I was like, is she fucking serious? Is like, you know, she says to Banner, well, why don't you just go to my dad and talk it out? And it's like, this is not a situation where we need the can't we all just get along moderate approach to try and solve this problem, because literally, you know, it's like it's the, you know, he wants to extract the Hulk somehow. Whether or not Banner survives that, I mean, I don't know if it's ever confirmed in the movie, but I think Ross is kind of, you know, doesn't give a flying fuck if Banner survives the extraction of the Hulk from Banner. To make, because he wants to just make super soldiers. That's what he's here to do. So if he can do that without, you know, he doesn't care if Banner lives or dies, and all he wants to do is experiment on the Hulk and see if he can create more of them. To that end, it's like, it's a bizarre kind of, you know, thing. And I think the other issue I have is that it's like, the situation, like, the way that he finds his way to, you know, the way he finds his way to Banner is just way too lucky. That it's like, oh yeah, this old guy died of died of gamma poisoning, and he was in, you know, and he got it from drinking this soda, and it's like, how do they know that? Like it worked out that, like, the soda was so radioactive, this imported soda, mind you, in a post 9/11 world, the soda that was imported, that 110%, like, the Port Authority is like, if it's that radioactive that drinking the soda kills him instantly, you would think something would have caught that before that. But for it to get all the way in and be like, okay, well, now he's gonna drink it and that's gonna kill him. But, like, did they, like, quarantine the entire building after that? Because, like, he spilled that all over the floor. It's just one of those things where it's like, why was that the... You know, the idea that they, like, it's such a weird contrivance to get, oh, and this is how we figured it out. It can't just be, you could have just done one line and been like, we have intel that Banner's in Brazil, hiding out. Like, we caught him on this surveillance tape, or anything like that. It makes them seem more on top of things if you do that than just like, well, it just so happened this old guy died, and he, like, because that's the thing, is that it's like, okay, so this old guy dies, and like, first of all, the minute that happens, and I know he thinks he got the blood, and he was dumb for thinking he got all the blood, but, like, come the fuck on. Why wouldn't you just leave and find somewhere else to go instead of just hanging out there? Because, like, the entire plot of the movie doesn't happen if that doesn't happen. Like, if he leaves, then the entire plot of the movie doesn't happen because of this contrivance. Instead of just being like, we've been tracking him outside the country because he turns into this giant green radioactive rage monster. Like, and we can track that via satellite or something. Like, I don't think anyone would have been like, now hold on, I don't think that science adds up. Like, it's just like it's weird. It's a weird choice to go with that. And again, it's just like so much of, like, that's what I was saying about, you know, the whole thing with Betty. Like, this idea that Betty is like, what's it called? That she's like, well, why don't you just go talk it out? It's like, nothing we've heard up until this point, either on our end, like from Banner telling us, or from the back, which I did appreciate. Let's just put this out there. I appreciated the way they exposited the backstory of the Hulk in this kind of like, he already is the Hulk, and then the key information you will get through, you know, through flashbacks. But we're not going to relitigate the origin story of the Hulk. You know, he's just kind of the Hulk already. And I like that idea, and I like that way of going. But a lot of this that kind of happens, I'm kind of just like, well, why? You know, like, nothing we see really gives him, like, gives me as a viewer, who, even if I had no idea what was going on with Blonsky and all of that, like, I would have no issue believing that, like, oh, he's just gonna fucking kill him if he gets the opportunity. Like, he has no interest in the safety of Banner and all of this. All he cares about is, you know, is getting the Hulk so he can experiment on it. It's just one of those dumb moments that I'm like, why have Betty do that? Because it's not like the line is there because they don't have faith in the audience to figure that out themselves, I feel like. But, like, at the same time, it's like, why, like, it's such a fundamental part of this movie. Why would you not trust the audience to understand that? To the point that you need to have this really stupid line. And at the end of the day, it's like, I think the movie would have been better off, you know, I don't think we needed the Hulk going into, I don't think we needed the Hulk going into Avengers as a movie. Especially considering it was this thing that was co-produced or co-distributed by Universal. So it's one of those things where it's like, up until like Civil War, it wasn't really like, a lot of people didn't really know, like, is this really MCU canon? Because, like, yeah, Tony Stark shows up in there, and it's all the Stark Industries logos and all of that, but, like, they never really reference the events of that movie. Like, they don't reference the events of that. There's a brief reference in the Avengers when Banner's like, yeah, the last time I was here I kind of broke Harlem, but, like, beyond that, there's really no reference to this anywhere, or any of the characters or any of the specific events. It's just like, yeah, there was a fight that involved the Hulk in New York City, but beyond that, we don't really get a sense of anything with this. And I appreciate the attempt to make a Hulk movie happen, but I think Hulk, to me, is kind of the same as Deadpool at this point. I don't need solo movies of this character. He is a flying brick who is here to fuck up people's day and all of that. I didn't need a trilogy of Deadpool movies to understand that character. Deadpool is Deadpool. We don't need, 3 movies to be like, oh, and this is what makes him tick. I just give me Deadpool in supporting roles. That's kind of how I feel about the Hulk after this. Now, finally getting, Red Hulk is a cool thing. It's a little bittersweet that it's not going to be William Hurt. Because he was just, I love him in this movie, and I love him in everything after, which we'll talk about it again next week. Like, when he's like, when he shows up with at the Avengers headquarters and goes, Captain, is there any, like, do you know exactly where Banner is right now, where Banner and Thor are right now? And he kind of looks down. And the thing I always imagine is after that scene, he just kind of walks, like, right when he's just off screen, he pulls out a little notebook, and it's like, how to track the Hulk. It's like, Ask Steve Rogers, kind of crosses it out. Like, he's great in that role, and then he appears other times too, like even in his small role in Black Widow, his small role in Infinity War. Like, he's a great kind of constant kind of antagonistic figure on behalf of the U.S. government that, serves the plot reasonably well when he shows up. And to that end, it's kind of, disappointing that he never got to make that transformation into Red Hulk that we are finally getting in this movie. It's going to be Harrison Ford instead. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not looking to gift horse in the mouth here. You give me Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, I'm going to show up. But still, at the same time, it's I want to see, I'm disappointed we don't get to see William Hurt in this role. And I'm also happy they're not CGI reincarnating him, or bringing him back from the dead. I'm very happy about that because I can't stand that in movies. But to that end, I'm happy this is behind me now. I probably will never have to watch this movie again. This is probably the MCU movie I've watched the least. And I think rightfully so. I think the middle of the movie just kind of drags as I sit here and I'm like, okay, well, now we're going to walk around for a bit in South America. And now we have to sit here and watch him figure out how to get back to America. Okay, now he's back in America. Now we got this melodrama, which, fine. You want to give me I watched The Flash for 9 seasons. I can deal with melodrama in my comic book movie. You can put a little bit of the chocolate and the peanut butter there. That's fine. I'm not arguing that melodrama is bad. The problem is, I don't believe that Liv Tyler is there for any reason other than the check cleared, and I don't believe her and Ed Norton had, been in the same room for any length of time before being thrust out into the scene on camera. That's kind of the disappointing thing with this whole movie, is that it's so much of the movie is centered on this love story, which is kind of a departure from Iron Man, where there is the romantic aspect of it with Pepper and Tony, and then essentially in Iron Man, and then continued in Iron Man 2, but you don't get this sense that this is that important. And I think that to an extent there is an argument to be made that the MCU doesn't handle these love stories well, because that's the big issue with when we talk about the criticisms of Age of Ultron, again, the shoehorn love story between Banner and Natasha. When we talk about Infinity War, one of the issues is I don't believe that there is a deep love between Star-Lord and Gamora enough to where it's let's burn this entire universe down. In Doctor Strange, the issue with that is I don't buy the love story between him and Rachel McAdams beyond that one episode of What If. Outside of that one episode of What If, I don't get the sense that these two love each other in any way. And that's kind of a disappointing thing, especially considering these are things that are meant to be these big moments in these worlds that are grounding it. We're dealing with these stories of fantastical gods and creatures and all of these things, yet the thing that's designed to ground it, these love stories that are meant to be relatable, they don't feel like they're written by anyone who's ever been in love. It feels, at times, this movie, this is the worst offender of them, but at times the romance portion of this movie feels as bad as Attack of the Clones. And it's a similar thing with with Thor and Jane. It's a similar thing. I don't buy that relationship or that Thor cared that much about her, or vice versa. Because it's he shows up for his solo movies and they just barely. He shows up for the crossovers and they barely acknowledge Jane. He went months without going to see her, even in Thor: The Dark World. And again, fucking Natalie Portman gets stuck in both of them. But regardless, it's that is kind of the thing that kind of harms this movie overall, especially considering how much time we spend with it. If you don't have to watch, I don't think you really have to watch this movie, because I know the leader's going to have a role, obviously, in the creation of the Red Hulk. And the Red Hulk is going to be a thing in this movie. At the end of the day, I hope that this movie is not the most important one going into Brave New World. I have a feeling it will be somewhat important, though. But we'll wrap up there for today. Next week, on Thursday, we will be talking about, what was it? What was the movie we were talking about on Thursday? Civil War. Captain America Civil War, not Civil War, the A24 Alex Garland movie. And then we will also be talking about on Monday, I believe we're doing Sonic the Hedgehog on Monday. I don't have my calendar, and actually I can pull up my calendar right now because I have it on my phone and I've parked so I can look it up. Calendar. Sonic the Hedgehog on Monday, Captain America Civil War on Thursday. Tomorrow morning we'll be doing Dream Productions over on Beware of Spoilers. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.